All right, welcome to Desk Tool Which Computer. So, as someone who is looking to start or grow your business, the number one tool that's going to be super important for you is going to be your computer. Literally, it used to be that anybody who only worked online needed to know how to be able to use a computer and the internet. But the truth is that now it does not matter which business that you are in, whether that be in person, brick and mortar, remote, hybrid, whatever. Every single business is now an online business. Okay, so there is no way around being able to use a computer. It's going to be absolutely critical. It literally is one of the core foundational tools in your tool belt in order to be able to actually build the business that you're looking to go ahead and build. Okay, so inside of this training section, we are going to go ahead and break down types of computers, which computer is going to be right for you, and hey, whether or not you should just wait for your entire business desk setup to be done before you actually start. We're going to talk about each of those three things. Let's go ahead and talk about the first one, which is going to be the types of computers. So this is something that a lot of people get confused on because they don't understand that there's actually different types of computers that exist out there. Okay, so there's going to be a laptop computer, there's going to be desktop computers, there's going to be tablet computers, and within each of those different categories, there are different operating systems as well as different manufacturers. So for example, a desktop computer, this is going to be kind of like the big brick that kind of sits on a computer. There's a Windows desktop computer that's sometimes made by HP, Dell, a whole bunch of different manufacturers. Then there's also the Apple iMac desktop computer, right? And those are the desktop computer types. Then there's also laptop computers, things like our Windows laptops. So again, made by HP, Dell, etc. And then there are Apple MacBook laptops. And then Google also has something called a Chromebook, which is a type of laptop computer as well, right? And then there's also tablet computers. So those are going to be like Windows tablets and iPad. Those are different examples of tablet computers. And so it's just important to make sure that you are taking a look at the exact computer, the tool that you are using to see, hey, is this computer that I'm going to be using to build basically my livelihood, is it good enough? Because the thing is that you're going to be spending a lot of time on this device, on this computer. And so if it's slow, if it doesn't work well, not only is it going to cost you literally hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars over the course of your career, but then on top of that, you're going to be super frustrated and you're going to end up wanting to literally destroy the computer, right? And so I'm just telling you right now, just as a note, you cannot build a six-figure income off of your phone or your iPad tablet with the type of businesses that we're going to be walking you through. It is extremely difficult to build a website off of a phone or an iPad, okay? And so you're going to need something to work on that is going to be extremely solid. So the question you might have is, okay, well, which computer is going to be right for me? Now, the answer to that question is going to depend on your preferences, your budget, your experience, right? However, overall, we would recommend getting a laptop instead of a desktop, just so that way, if you are getting something new, we recommend a laptop so it's a little bit more flexible and portable, okay? And then that way you also have a webcam that's automatically included inside of your laptop. So it's not like you have to go out there and buy a separate webcam like you would with a desktop. So if you are looking to go ahead and actually purchase a new computer and you are on a budget, our recommendation would be the Apple MacBook Air, and that would either be the M1 or the M2 version, okay? Now, if you don't know what that means, don't worry. You don't have to know what that means. And we're going to go ahead and take some time and walk you through that in just a second as well, okay? But the reason we recommend that is because in our opinion, it's basically one of the best computers ever created. And it's going to only cost you, again, on a budget, because a desktop computer, a very fancy computer, could cost you thousands of dollars. This one, with taxes and everything, and with all that kind of included, is going to run about $1,300, and that's with the additional warranty. And if you've never used an Apple computer before, don't worry, you'll get a hang of it. I myself was a Windows computer. I swore I would never use a MacBook, and then a couple years ago I switched, and that was the best decision that I ever made. Now, in terms of if you are thinking like, man, only $1,300, that's a lot. Well, here's the thing. Let me give you an example. So the computer that I'm currently using right now is a 16-inch MacBook Pro with 64 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte SSD. This cost me over $5,000. Now the question is, how much money did I make with that investment of $5,000? Well, with this exact computer, I have made over $1 million. Yes, that is not a typo. Over $1 million cash collected, right? And so all of that would not have been possible without the computer that I am using. And so the question you got to ask yourself is like, okay, $5,000 spent, and was it worth making $1 million? I don't know if I even have to answer that question for you, okay? So the point being is that your computer is the device that you're going to be using literally your business on, so it's worth the investment, even if it's going to be faster and all of that. So a $1,300 computer to be able to make a 5, 6, potentially 7-figure income as a business owner, well, that's worth it, right? And so what we're going to go ahead and do right now is really quickly, I want to go ahead and cut over to a mini training in which I'm going to go ahead and take you over to Apple's website and just walk you through at the time of recording this training what that looks like and what are some of the different options that you can consider when it comes to a computer. And the reason why we're doing this is because we want you to be able to be set up for success, so that way you're not confused about this, okay? So let's go ahead and cut over to that now. All right, welcome to this quick mini training. We're going to go ahead and walk you through on the Apple website some things to just consider if you are thinking of getting a new computer. So you'll see I'm here on the apple.com website. Typically, if you are going to go with a new computer, now the MacBook Pros are going to be built for they're like really solid built computers for professionals to do a lot of work on. However, sometimes they are not that cost efficient, but a lot of times you can get away with just the MacBook Air as well, right? And the MacBook Air is going to be cheaper as well. So I'm going to go over to the MacBook Air, and then they are going to have, at the time of recording this, they have the M2 chip or the M1 chip, okay? Now, both M chips are amazing. They're quite frankly probably the best chips on the planet right now. And so it doesn't matter which one you decide to go through. You can go ahead and look at the pricing options for either of them. It's completely up to you. However, some of the things that you are going to want to consider, okay? So we're going to talk about the system on chip, which is the M chip. So any M chip is going to be fine, right? M1, M2, M3, or whatever the latest M chip is, or even the older M chips. No problem there. But the one thing that you do want to consider is the memory or the RAM, okay? So let me go ahead and click on the M1 over here. I'm going to click on buy, and then let me go ahead and show you what we mean by this, okay? So you got a couple different options here, $999, $1099, $1299, whatever. Okay, so it's up to you if you want to do a 13-inch computer, which is going to be really good for traveling and portability. And then you can always just go ahead and hook up an external monitor. We're going to have a whole separate training section in the upcoming training sections to walk you through external monitors. So that way, if you don't want to do the 15-inch, I quite frankly would probably go with like a 13-inch, maybe like an M1 or an M2, depending on my budget. And then I'll just hook it up to an external monitor, and then it's going to be super, super easy then, right? So let's say, for example, we come over here, but you want to go ahead and pay attention to the memory, right? So this right over here, memory is, we have a couple things inside of the actual guide for this, right? So upgrade to at least 16 gigabytes of memory. If you can afford more RAM, the better, because the thing is that you can get away with 16 gigabytes, but even more potentially could be better. Now, if you really can't afford it, sure, 8 gigabytes of RAM is going to be fine as long as it's an M chip with an SSD hard drive. I'll walk you through that in just a second, but you just have to understand that with 8 gigs of RAM, you probably are going to have to upgrade in the next 1 or 2 years, okay? So in this case, let me show you what's going on here. In this case, on the M1, which is the older computer at the time of recording this, they actually have up to 16 gigabytes, so it does cost an extra $200. Now, this is not something you can upgrade later because it is hardwired into the actual computer, okay? But then when it comes to storage, we're going to show you, and community members are going to have trainings inside of the community on this, which is that you can actually use Google Drive to store everything in the cloud, so you don't really have to store nowadays a lot of things on the actual hard drive. And as long as you make sure that you have an SSD, because it's going to be so much faster than an HDD, then having a 256 SSD should be fine. If you want to upgrade to, let's say, a 512, it's completely up to you if you have the budget for it. But more importantly, if you don't have it, you want to spend, the $200, spend it more on the memory rather than on the storage, okay? That's going to be very important. Now, in this case, on the M1, they have up to a 16 gigabyte, but if I go ahead and let me go back here real quick and show you that on the M2, they actually allow you to be able to go ahead and upgrade to up to, let's say, 24 gigs of RAM, right? So that's going to make it a little bit more future-proof for you. It's going to make things a lot faster as well, and then you can get away with the 256. Again, all of this depends on your preference. It depends on your budget. All of that is just factors that you have to consider, and this is why right after this, when we get back in the main training, I'm going to talk to you about how important it is to consult with other community members, with your friends, with your peers in the same industry. This is why you have a community, you have access to the community to be able to see what might be the best option for you. But this is where I just want to go ahead and walk you through very quickly on Apple's website some of the things to think through, because there is no right or wrong answer for this, just a matter of, hey, what is the right option for you given your situation right now? So again, with that being said, this has been going over some of the options on the Apple computer on Apple's website. With that being said, let's go ahead and cut back over to the main training. All right, welcome back. So that was the kind of mini training that we wanted to walk you through so that way you could see, hey, these are some of the different options to think through if you are looking to go ahead and get a new computer. Not that you have to, but again, if you are, that's something that you can go ahead and think through. And the biggest thing is that throughout this entire process, you want to make sure that you are using the community. We've talked about this a lot throughout the entire program, is that if you need help, right? Or maybe even if you don't need help, what you're doing is that for other people who might need help on this, you're going in there and actually increasing your give to ask ratio. You're building your relationship bank account, because the community, that is literally where you're able to go ahead and get the support that you are looking for, but also build the relationships that are going to allow you to be able to think of things differently. So when it comes to being able to understand, like, hey, what hard drive should I get? What processor should I get? How much RAM should I have? Like, all of these are things that you can go ahead and talk to the community about and post in there. And if you are good with computers, go in there and help other people, because that's going to allow you to be able to build that emergency fund later on when you actually need help with something else. Okay, so that's why it's so important to make sure that you are using the community. Now, last thing I want to go ahead and point out for this specific training is, hey, should I wait to have my entire business desk set up before I can actually even start anything like the business website and all that kind of stuff? Hear me out, okay? Pay attention to this very, very carefully. Repeat after me. The answer is No. Okay, because here's the thing. The number one rule in business and entrepreneurship is to use what you have. Okay, so if the other members of this community and they see any student who's literally sitting around, waiting around, twiddling their thumbs to say, you know what, I got to wait to save enough money in order to be able to buy a good computer so that way I can start my business. Or I got to be able to go ahead and wait around so I can do XYZ before I can start my business. For sure, you are going to be labeled as a entrepreneur business owner, a failure uniform business owner. Because here's the thing, and I want to make this extremely clear right now. You need to start on your business regardless of the tools that you have. The reason why we are walking you through these trainings is to open your minds and your eyes to the other types of tool that exist out there and that are going to be important. However, you want to have wisdom thinking. You don't want to be nickel and diming and literally saying, you know what, I'm not going to go through any of these desk tools and set them up for no reason at all. That's kind of idiotic. And then also the other end of the spectrum here is like, oh, I'm going to overspend all my time and all my money getting these desk tools set up when I haven't actually even done anything. So you do not want to be extreme on either end of it. You need to assess like, hey, what can I do with what I have? And what are going to be the things that can allow me to be able to get the work done easier and better? So you want to be balanced based on your specific situation. And so this is where the details matter. At the end of the day, you got to get the work done with the wisdom to know, hey, what are the tools that are going to make my life easier to allow me to actually get the work done better? Does that make sense? Very, very, very important. So do not wait for an excuse to say, hey, you know what? I couldn't actually work on my business because I needed to have 1, 2, 3, 4, X, Y, Z things. Scrap all of that. Use what you have. And then in the background, be working on your actual desk setup. Okay. Does that make sense? I hope so. What's next after this? We've now gone ahead and talked about the computer and which computer is going to be very important. This is going to be a critical tool of the trade of entrepreneurship, but we're not done yet. We got to go ahead and talk about some of the other foundational business tools, the other desk tools that are going to be important for you. So that way you can actually go out there and build your business. You're doing an amazing job. Make sure you keep on pushing forward. Success is just around the corner. You're making awesome progress one step at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been this desk tool on which computer you should go ahead and invest in, or maybe just understand, hey, let me assess what my computer actually looks like, because it is going to be very important. So again, we're not done yet. We're going to go ahead and catch you in the next desk tool and talk about what are the other tools you need for your business. We will catch you in the next training section.